movie time with John DeSando and his friends online. So everything is gonna be just fine. From the top down to the bottom, he's gonna let you know if you should stay home or if you should go. Might even yell if it's a spectacle. From San Francisco to Long Island. 'Cause nothing's better than a
It's Movie Time is produced by John DeSando. Listen to shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John
And
DeSando,
I'm Mindy Mcfann.
and this is It's Movie Time.
Yeah.
Now, Mindy,
Mm-hmm.
we have a film called Holdovers.
Yes.
Now, have you ever come across this term?
No.
What does it mean?
No. It's when you stay behind at a school on a holiday break.
Right. And if it's a grumpy teacher who's supervising you, it's even worse.
As which all teachers probably would be.
I know it is. Well, this is directed by Alexander Payne, who did Election, among other things.
I loved that movie.
Yes, it was very good. And starring Paul Giamatti.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
He's wonderful.
those two guys have been together before.
I don't know.
Yeah, Sideways.
Oh, I did. Oh, he did Sideways.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's prepared for his grumpy teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what's the gist of the story, Mindy, for
I think it's 4 or 5 kids are held over at a boarding school because their parents can't come get them for whatever reason. One kid's parents are out of the country and, you know, rich kids and all that kind of stuff. And then there's one teacher who gets stuck. It's not his turn, but he gets stuck staying with the kids. And then the vast majority, the one kid is really wealthy and his father lands with a helicopter and sprints them all off, except for one kid, off to a ski holiday. And the one kid can't go because there was no one to give permission, because his mother's off with his stepfather doing whatever.
Well, they were supposed to go to St. Kitts,
Yes.
and he was just blasting it around everybody,
Yeah.
so happy, and then Mom calls and says she needs a honeymoon with
Never
her new
mind. Yes.
with her new husband.
Because we need the evil stepfather.
So this student is named Tully, Angus Tully,
Mm-hmm.
played by a newcomer, Dominic Sessa. I really liked him.
I did too. I thought his performance was very subtle.
Yeah,
Liked it.
a mixture between Timothy Chalamet and Adam Driver. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In fact, I'm so tired of seeing Timothy Chalamet. I was very happy to have
I agree.
a very agreeable substitute. Well, look I'm saying, Mindy, for me, I'll disclose it early. This is one of the best movies of the year for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And however, it is a movie that you're not going to have very many surprises.
No. No. But I love the style of it. It isn't shot. It isn't set in 1971. It's shot as if the movie was made in 1971. And I don't know if it was really on film or they just made it look like it was on film.
No.
But the coloring and everything is like some kind of Polaroid of 1971.
It is. It reminded me of Hal Ashby's work. Particularly, we recently saw Harold and Maude.
Mm-hmm.
So it has that flavor to it.
Yes.
And I'm sure there are others, but mostly Hal Ashby, which is, character-centered, social issues,
Mm-hmm.
a layover of music that I thought was almost as if I was hearing, who was it that does
Cat Stevens?
yes, almost as if it were Cat Stevens over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So any good film like this has a conflict. And Mindy, what is it for you?
Well, I guess the kid and the teacher and all their pain butting up against each other.
Yes, very good for Alexander Payne.
Uh-huh.
Very nice,
Exactly.
nicely
Exactly.
done. Giamatti plays a kind of schlubby guy who's yet endearing.
Yes, he is, but they make him almost grotesque.
Yeah, he does this very well.
Mhm.
What is grotesque about him?
Well, they talk about him smelling. His
Yeah.
eye is messed up.
Yes. They call him
He's
Walleye.
kind of, walleye. He's kind of a drunk. He has a condition that makes his hands sweat. He has a condition that makes him smell like fish. I mean,
Yes.
they make him as repugnant as they can.
Boy, they really do. And now he's teaching classics at a high-class prep school in New England.
Yes.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing if that's what you want to do.
And it would appear to me that he might have been destined for something more elevated. Let's
Or
just
at
say.
least had aspirations for it.
I mean, at some time in our career, we'd have been happy, right?
Yeah, he went to Harvard, I presume, with expectations that everybody that goes to Harvard has.
Yes, yes.
And it didn't work out because the rich people squashed him.
And Giamatti comes to this very naturally, since his father was in fact the president of Yale.
Yes, and he went to very, very pretentious high schools and colleges. So.
I know. And being stuck here, which it's relative. Whether there's some people who have jobs at Phillips Exeter and other places where they're very happy and doing very well. And for him, it just isn't. What are the things that stick in his craw about working there?
Entitlement. I mean, entitlement comes over and over again. And it harkens back to the entitlement that made him get kicked out of Harvard, not the little rich brat that he smacked. So that idea that rich people have an unfair advantage over everybody else, and you see these kids, if your father's coming to pick you up with a helicopter to go on a ski vacation, like that's even an option in your life. Even, the kid who he ends up with, who you don't know his backstory and the difficulties, but at the end of the day, these are all entitled,
Yes.
wealthy, affluent kids. Not that they don't have problems, but he has to kind of sort out the difference between the money and the humanity.
Yes. And he calls them, at one point, he calls them vermin.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he calls them all kinds of really awful things.
And yet, Giamatti is so bright about this that he still makes you love him, even though he has such a misanthropic, bitter attitude toward life.
Yeah.
And it would be kind of character that you say, oh, get me out of here, why am I paying to see this?
Mm-hmm.
And yet there is a kindness way underneath him.
Yeah.
Best expressed maybe in his relationship with Miss Lydia Crane.
Mm-hmm. The secretary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think about her in that role?
I think she added a little sweetness
Yeah.
to it, and almost aspirational for him.
Yes.
That you could see him, like the slight motivation to come out of his shell that maybe this woman might like him. Doesn't turn out that way, but you know.
No, I know, and she's an attractive middle-aged lady who's very upbeat,
Mm-hmm.
and while he doesn't go overboard about her, you can see that he's attracted to her. In fact, one point, Tully says, "You guys have chemistry,"
Right.
and it's apparent to us that they really do too.
And you see what a shred of hope can do.
Yes, and yet I thought there was a justice in it, since nothing comes of this.
Right.
Is that it's what he deserves. The fact that it doesn't. In other words, we're
Right.
all hoping for him.
Right.
Maybe it's a romantic connection. She's really a good lady.
Mhm.
That would be a good. And then it doesn't work.
Right.
And so, at one point, the camera just cuts
Mm-hmm.
to her greeting a guest.
Yeah, I'm kissing him.
And kissing him right on the lips.
Yeah.
And this is a serious relationship. And Giamatti, of course, is such a fine actor. Just in the split second, you can see his hopes are dashed
Yes.
as to what he went. But
Yeah.
what did he expect?
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to hook up with a grouch like this?
Yeah. I think it was important to the story that he be that pitiful. That he had to kind of find his own way out of it.
Mm-hmm. One of the reliefs from these two grim characters, that is both Tully and Paul, is Divine Joy Randolph playing Mary Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
How about her?
Really interesting. I like the complication of her character, that they didn't make her simplistic. Like she wasn't all sweet, she wasn't all helpful, she wasn't the perfect mother, she was a real, I like the depth of her character. Her son has died, and she's mourning it, and she's not doing it in a cinematic way.
Yeah. And she's able to carry on,
Mm-hmm.
even though there are several moments where she almost breaks down crying
Right.
and thinking about him.
Right,
Curtis, I think was his name.
yeah,
You know what's most interesting for me, Mindy, is that Curtis died in Vietnam,
mm-hmm,
and he had to go.
right,
However, his classmates didn't, most of them.
right.
And the seriousness of that, meaning that he did not have the ability to get himself out of it, out of going.
No, I mean, people die to go to college all the time,
Yeah,
always have.
yeah.
That's the payoff.
Yeah. So many of the wealthy, entitled classmates were able to go back, to go to college, to get out of going out of the draft.
Like George Bush.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
others.
I mean, it's true.
I know.
They don't, I mean, rich people don't pay for their own sins. Poor people pay for the sins of the rich.
They do.
So you make a war, you're not gonna have to fight it,
Yeah, oh boy, and that is just really brought home with her character.
right?
She's the cook. She's happy to be there, but and in part because it's nostalgic for her, because that's where her son went to school.
Yeah,
Bart.
he died for his education.
Yeah. Wow. Now, Mindy, one of the things that people are going to say, oh yeah, I heard it all before. I know they all become saints by the end of it. Is that true?
No, not at all. It wasn't, this isn't, I wouldn't call this an overly comfortable movie.
Very
That's
good.
what I would say.
And that's a good way. What would you recommend?
If you like a story, and I really liked the making of this movie. I like being able to think about the simplicity of the making of this movie, cost-wise, and how they were so creative with that.
All right, I hear the telephone ringing and people say they want more of Mindy's conversation about this movie, so they're going to have to go to Backtalk on the WCBE, the podcast experience.
Stop the clamoring.
With John DeSando and his friends online. So everything is gonna be just fine. From the top down to the bottom. He's gonna let you know